Hey, come out to the Geekcast. This is Raymond. We're back again. This time, we're actually interviewing a friend that we've had on a long time ago. She was actually me and Brian's first interview that we had. At that time, she was working on Picard, and of course, she worked on Quantum Leap at that time, which was a show I loved, and I'm sad that it got canceled. But she helped bring back Enterprise D's bridge from the grave and built it. You know, and she's also worked on a couple other things. We're gonna ask how her first convention went because when we had her on the first time, um, she had never been to one of the Star Trek conventions, and she's been to multiple different conventions now. Let's not wait any longer. Let's get Liz into the room and ask her how con life has been treating her. How's it going, Liz?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Just want to follow. I mean, okay. I want to start off with how was your first Star Trek convention?
It's so funny. So that's how long ago we talked because I've been to a bunch of them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was great. I think it was Comic Con. Was it Comic Con that year? It was the year that the actor strike happened.
Yes.
And then yeah, Larry Nemechek had brought Kit Stolen and I in, so we were like, there were no actors talking, and we were the only people they were talking about Star Trek. So we had a really good turnout. And he put us in Autograph Alley, and we were like, "Why?" And then he goes, "Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, you'll see." And then we met all these really cool people that came in and talked to us, and so that was the first taste. And then right after that was Star Trek Las Vegas, which same thing.
Yeah.
Like we got put on stage, really really great reception. Met so many people, but yeah, the con life it's been cool. So I do like Vegas, and I also did FedCon last year, and I'm going back
Right.
to FedCon this year. So I've got a couple
Oh,
of a couple of things coming up.
nice. So, what kind of stories did you get from fans that came up to you at the table? Like, thank you for recreating Enterprise D. I mean, what were some of the things that they told you, the fans?
Oh yeah, I mean so many things, but a lot of them are like Star Trek helped me through my dark days, and then you helped us. Like you brought this thing back that I've watched for 30 years, or like I used to watch Next Gen with my dad, and my dad died, and so this is so
Wow.
significant for me. All the things people tell you, like Star Trek. I don't fit in anywhere, but I fit in Star Trek. Like this is so significant. And like you moved me, and like I didn't do that. Like that was Terry and his writing and the cast and the storytelling. But like that, just getting the D right, like that, Dave Blass and me and like the 400 people that built it could take credit for making sure that that was done right. So that's a lot, so much thanks for because it's a character. So that's we've got a
Yes.
little bit more traction than any. We build tons of sets at every show, but that one is the D's. She really is a character.
No, she is. I mean, I watched, regular Star Trek back in the day, and you know, and then of course the reruns of what I watched. At that time when I watched it, I didn't know you were supposed to watch in order
Hmm.
because of course we didn't have VCRs at the time. So if you missed it, you missed it. I didn't know
Hmm.
this, and when I started seeing Next Generation, then VCRs were in, so I started to record it so I didn't miss the episodes.
Hmm.
And of course, it's changed. But one of the things I did find, and I wanted to ask about this right here. So is this
Hmm.
how y'all went by like a puzzle, started putting everything together?
Yeah, that's so. See how they're all on like foam core boards. So I had
Yes.
them all like they were all like mobile. So I had like a big Rolodex of foam core boards in my office. And
Wow.
then once all of that research had been done, Dave had ordered us to go hang it up on the stage. So that big panning shot is like all of the research kind of all in one place. And he had said to do
Wow.
that because a lot of the people building it, they might have a question and they might not have, I had walked around with a binder of stuff, but not everybody
Right.
had that. So they could just march down. It was just down on the corner of the stage and they could go and consult the board. So it was a really, really successful way of showing that research to everybody involved.
Wow. So of course, from what they did back in the day, I'm pretty sure technology has evolved, and a lot of the stuff that they had created back then, was it easier to recreate some of that, or was it a little bit hard, or trying to kind of match it? How did y'all do that?
Yeah, I think It was, I mean, mostly it was easier because of the techniques that we had. So like the foam milling and the computer numeric cutting, the CNC cutting, all of that makes things a lot easier versus in the 80s they had to do all that by hand. So,
Wow.
you have like human error. So now we can, as long as we get it right in the digital, we'll be able to recreate it. Like that build looks just like how we drew it digitally. And then you get a little bit more, like it's more fluid when you have a hand drafter draw something and then someone has to build it, interpret it off of a black and white, like a pencil sketch. So that being able to export out of the computer to a machine and have the machine cut the foam definitely helped us. But we had some other challenges, like obviously finding the right carpet because that was out of stock, and making sure the paint colors were right because that doesn't look like, it looks much different with the lighting and the 4K cameras and all of that. Like, I have people saying, "Oh, your wall colors aren't quite right," and I actually got that off of a set piece, so I know that it's right, but it just looks different with modern technology, modern
Yeah, I
cameras.
mean, the high def makes it look
Mm.
more, you can see everything now compared to back in the day, the big pixelated screen, if you didn't have the big fancy TVs as well. So I mean, yeah, I mean, you did a awesome job. And to me, you have etched yourself in history as now people are going to know you as the person who bought the Enterprise D back to life. And luckily, they didn't destroy the set this time like they did before,
Hmm.
which was great because hopefully I get to see it. I mean, in sometime soon, because I do know that they have it at Universal, and
Hmm.
I think I have a photo here that they have. I guess this is the tour that they're doing.
Hmm.
So I mean, them bringing that to there, and of course, before when they do this movies or the TV shows, that screen in the background is just a blank area, right?
Oh, it's a green screen or it's a blue screen for us. So
Oh,
so
okay, okay.
that, yeah, we don't see, yeah, they've got a projector behind it now so you can see space, or you can see, whatever anomalies and stuff like that on there. But that picture, yeah, basically
Uh-huh.
um all the walls, the view screen, the aft, and all the furniture, those are all from Picard. You can see the
Wow.
carpet. I disagree with the choice, but they chose a different red carpet, not the one that I used. So I said something, but nobody cared. And then
Well,
their horseshoe also, they had to rebuild the platform and the horseshoe are all new, not just that railing, but you can see how the horseshoe doesn't quite line up with the ramp. That's just
oh,
because the ramp they built wasn't to my drawing, and the horseshoe they built, same thing. But they had to do that. I understand they had to lower the platform for ADA, like wheelchair compliance. So when that
yeah.
changed, it caused like a whole slew of problems because it actually made the set walls a foot shorter than they needed to be, and it made the horseshoe a foot taller than it needed to be. So they had to rebuild those things, and so those aren't mine, is what I'll say.
So I mean, the carpet. I get an idea about the carpet because you think about they're gonna have all these people stepping on it compared to because I'm pretty sure that carpet that you picked for the Picard wasn't cheap.
It was $4 a square foot.
Oh
So
dang.
you tell me if that we can't afford that. And also, my carpet was a lot more durable. Like this carpet actually looks pretty felty.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
I say my carpet, but like the carpet I sourced that has the dimpling, that like all of that information is in my binder, like that was given to them. So like they had all that information. They just said this was cheaper. I mean, I bet you this was $1 a square foot, not four.
Oh
But
yeah, probably yeah.
the red isn't a big part of the set. It's in the middle and it's a little bit on the perimeter.
Yeah.
But the square footage, I mean, I think the total cost would be like $1,700.
Oh
So
wow.
I don't know. That just doesn't seem like a lot of money to me. I mean,
Well, I guess too, the way Hollywood is going, they're trying to cut corners as well. Kind of was
mhm,
kind of crazy. I mean, that's
yeah.
still. I mean, you you growing up as a kid. I mean, we're all kids. We're all geeks. For me to have that as my legacy that helped build that, I can die tomorrow and I would be freaking happy. Like I'm like, but you helped. I mean, it's just so cool. And okay, not even just set. Like when you helped create the Quantum Leap set, that was awesome too. Like, how do you? Is it with? Are you in a room with a group of people and you guys kind of feed off each other? What's the process, or is it just comes out of your head? How does that work?
So no, there's a production designer that will meet with the director and the showrunners, and they'll find out what. That's usually my boss.
Okay.
Um, they'll find out what's needed, and then I'm involved with a team of people that will come up with ideas on how to draw the sets up. So like, oh, like the Ziggy, like, oh, the Ziggy stuff needs to look like this, or the Enterprise D was a lot more me because it required a lot of research. But if something is brand new, the designer might say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And they might draw something loose on a piece of paper and give it to like 4 of us. And then we'll all start coming up with, and it might be one person will draw it, but then like the rest of us, like the art directors, will be looking for materials. Or, oh, what do you think about doing the flooring with this hexagon, this thing, or a metallic sheen on this, or the window shapes, or like we'll be pulling research and feeding ideas to the person who's 3D modeling or hand drafting or whatever. But we kind of guide them along the way. And even sometimes I'll do something in 3D with the designer, and then once that's in a good place, then we'll hand that off to a set designer and they'll do the architectural drawings. So it really, a lot of these sets will be going at the same time. Like we might be designing 5 or 6 sets all at once.
Wow.
So the whole team we kind of divide and conquer and get that work done.
Wow, that's so crazy. I mean, and then of course you just didn't do that. You worked on a Western.
Mm-hmm.
How was it working on American Primal? Primal. I can't even pronounce it right.
Oh yeah,
Primeval.
American Primeval. Yeah, it was definitely different. Very different than the spaceship sets. It was probably, honestly, I'll probably say that Primeval was harder because everything we built was out in the weather, in the elements. Like we got snowed on, we got rained on, we got dust storms and extreme heat. Like it was really, really challenging. And some of the sets that we built were like huge. Like the fort in American Primeval is massive, and that we built from the ground up. Yeah. Oh, you have it there. Yeah. So that was when I started. That was just a field full of cottonwood trees and brush, like spiky little scrub brush. And so, like my first job, like the first week, was to go out there with the supervising art director and a tape measure, and we taped out the corners of that
Wow.
wall. And okay, here's where the buildings are going to go, and those the pathways, and how is it going to be orientated against the river. The designer had a lot. She had a lot of thinking that needed to happen to make sure that the fort had the river in the right place. And then we got into heavy research on all the Western buildings. So like I'm probably more proud of that fort, like the amount of those are all separate log cabin buildings. Like you can't even see a person in there. Like, I mean, maybe you can. They're so tiny. That was harder for me than like the D was just fun. And the D, they gave us all the money we needed, and it was stressful, but it wasn't like it was a little easier than Primeval. But that Primeval was like 12 straight months of out there doing that.
I mean, the detail. I mean, even when you see it in the on Netflix, you can see the detail. I mean, down to the teepees. I mean, to the fences.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long? So it was 12 months. How long out of that 12 months did it take you to get that set built?
So we did like 3 months of research and drawings, like building the thing in 3D and pulling research. So if we started in November, December, January, I think by February they were ready to build it. And then by March, April, yeah, it was like 2 months, 2 or 3 months to get the fort like really built. But they had like tons of guys out there slinging logs and all the end cuts. Like they have to build it so it looks like somebody made it out of like axes and like rustic methods, but they did everything with chainsaws. So they just had to chainsaw everything like and make it look like it was rough, like an axe cut it. So there was a lot of that. But yeah, I don't think we started filming until like April. It was like April or May. Or I think it was April. Oh, that was the fort. They were shooting other sets earlier than that. So like the fort, we didn't shoot the fort till like the last half of the shooting schedule. But we ended up shooting out there for like 120 days, which is a lot for 6 episodes. Like a usual episode, like Quantum Leap, we shot every episode was 6 days. Like How to Get Away with Murder, they were like 15-day episodes. Picard was like 15 to 20, but we would shoot 2 episodes at a time. So I mean, every show is a little bit different, but 120 days for 6 episodes tells you that we really spent a lot of time shooting all that stuff out
I was
there.
gonna say, I mean, yeah, I've been the snow stickiness. Now, how far were you? How far was
Mhm.
that set from, like, say, a town or local area for you, like you guys to?
Yeah, yeah. So the fort was at Cochiti, which is a Native American reservation land. It's like a
Yeah.
pueblo. Uh, Cochiti, they have some stuff nearby, but it was like a 45-minute drive from Santa Fe, and it was pretty wilderness. And a lot of the sets we had would be in like an hour and a half into the wilderness, and there'd be like one gas station, and it would be closed.
Wow.
So like, I had to learn, and I'm just spoiled, and I'm used to having like shooting at Universal. There's like restaurants and stuff nearby, but yeah, like you pack a lunch and you wrap up in your snow gear, and then you're out there all day. So it was definitely different. But yeah, it was pretty far from like the main. Like you couldn't just drive to Home Depot or to Walmart or anything like that. Like that was in. We would do that in town, and that's where our offices were. But yeah, it'd be like a schlep to get out to where you needed to go. And a lot of times there's just GPS coordinates. Hey, meet us at this
Wow.
location. And then you went out and explored. It really was a grand adventure. Like I look back now, it was hard, but I would go back.
Wow.
My coworkers said the
I
same
mean,
thing.
yeah, I mean, you're experiencing something
You know.
that you've never experienced before. I mean, I remember when my dad, when he moved out to the country for the first time, 'cause so I grew up I lived in the city with my mom, but my dad lived out in the country, and I would go visit him for the weekend. And when I went out there was nothing. Like you said, there's a gas station that's there that
Mm,
closes after 8 o'clock, and there's nothing after that. And you're in the middle of nowhere. You have no, you're limited to what you have. The TV wise, back then, of course, we
mhm.
didn't have internet, we didn't have any of that stuff. But yeah, and so it leaves you just to go explore in the trees and just kind of walk around. So
Right.
yeah, it's crazy.
Mhm.
So again, from the beginning of your career, you stated that Star Wars and that influenced you to get into this. Like, how old were you when that
Mhm.
when that bug hit you?
Yeah, I think Star Wars was first, and then Star Trek was not far behind because it was another space show. And so that, like, as a kid, we were like, oh, put that. Like, it was either that or like This Old House on TV, and so we were like, put Star Trek on. And the Klingons were really interesting, and but yeah, Star Wars. It was definitely the '90s, and my family had bought me all the action figures, like the little Power of the
Oh,
Force
nice.
action figures, and so I still have like a lot of those. But my grandparents had the VHS original trilogy VHS, and they had like I think we had like Search for Spock
Wow.
on VHS, and we had a couple of things, but like we would just watch those on repeat. But yeah, I mean a pretty young age, like 7 or 8, I think, are my earliest memories. Like I had a Millennium Falcon, and it was stuffed with my action figures and Barbie dolls. So like that, yeah, that was kind of how it started. And then I got into just anything fantasy. Like Pirates of the Caribbean was another big one because they had really great behind the scenes
Oh yeah.
featurettes on the making of. And so that I was just obsessed with. And then Lord of the Rings, the extended editions, had all those interviews, and I could quote every single interview.
Wow.
So all of that, we used to just get like so enthralled with that world. I have this funny story. When we were kids, we would not shut up because the Two Towers extended edition had just been released, and I was telling my dad about the Two Towers story, and he wasn't really listening, but he ended up like driving us to the store, and then walked to the DVD section and was like, "Show me what you were talking about." And so I pointed it out, and he bought it, and I was like, "I can't believe he's just buying this right now. Like he's so generous." But he was like, "I did it for a reason because you guys took it back to the house." And you went into the room and closed the door, and I didn't hear from you for like 12 hours. So, we were just so excited and talking and chattery and annoying. And he was just like, you guys just took that and disappeared. So he still tells that story. Like we've been and that, yeah, we
Well,
were just,
that little thing
teenage.
helped you do this. And I mean, this is a
Mhm.
dream. I mean, the job that you have in not just that. I mean, you're creative. I mean, you like to cosplay as well. I mean, how do you
Mhm.
know where to start to build your stuff? I mean,
Yeah, that one was a fluke because that the Dune stuff. That girl in
Uh-huh.
Carmen Valentina is like a
Oh,
professional
okay, okay.
cosplayer. She's the one playing. She's playing Paul, and I met her at that convention. She's like, "I love your costume so much," but I don't. I have a sewing machine, but I only like can barely sew, and I'm not a big fabricator. But like, I'm good at like assembling things and like getting. That's what I do. Is I like even with the sets. Like I'm not the painter. I don't swing a hammer, but I'm like I get everything in order and make sure that it looks good. So with that skill set, like so I would just buy a base costume and then I would go through it and say, oh, okay, these pieces look cheap. I'm gonna build this
Wow.
belt, or I'm on Etsy looking at stuff all the time because the craft people there, like they have it. So I'll kind of put it together and get it to a place that looks good, and then I'll the aging and weathering and the dusting and the dye and the makeup that I kind of have that I can do. But Carmen was like, your costume looks way more comfortable than mine, but like my base still suit was from China, like and it fit me, and it was like pajamas, and hers was like hard foam that she had handmade
Wow.
herself. Like that's talent. But yeah, we had fun anyways. So there's many ways to do the cosplay. I'm not like a cosplay fabricator. I just do it for fun. Like I want to put the costume on and go to the alley. What do the cosplay alley where everyone hangs out and
Yeah.
takes photos. Like that's the fun for me. That's the fun
Nice.
part.
So when you're at the convention, okay, I'm gonna put a photo up. This time, this was your first appearance, and you have the Enterprise D behind you.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that ship looks so beautiful in that case in the background, and you're there right in front, and if you got your photos, so this was your first convention. So how did you? Of course, guys, if you didn't know, she has these postcards that she has at the convention, and I'm lucky I got one because my buddy Brian was at the Vegas convention and he got it for me. Thank you, Liz. Uh, so how did you know
Thank you.
that's what you're going to make a postcards? I mean, you just kind of thought out of the blue, I'm going to do postcards for people, or it was just kind of like,
Oh, I don't know. People say to bring prints, and that those postcards are the 3D that Kevin and Kyle and I ended up
oh,
coloring it. That's what we used to create the set. It's actually the
oh,
3D
wow.
version of what we built. Like you can see, it looks it's a little
Yeah.
computerized, but that for me, because I did that, like the coloring was me, so I was like, oh, I could make those as postcards because it's something I did. And Dave has photos that he's taken of the set, but he's taken those photos. So Paramount's been fine with us selling our
Oh,
own
okay, okay.
artwork. So nothing else, just artwork and photos.
Nice. That's cool.
But the guys, what are they called?
Mhm.
Factory Entertainment. They have been hosting us for the last few years. So that table I have was generously given to me by the toy company Factory. And then that year they were like they had the Enterprise D. They weren't selling it, but they brought it anyways and set it up behind me. So it was really sweet that
Yeah,
they
no,
did
that
that. It wasn't. I didn't plan that.
hey, she's a beauty. She's a beauty. Just like,
Mhm.
that ship to me is my thing. I've got my game mat, and I got Todd to sign it. I got Terry Metalis to sign it. I need you to sign it now. I have Wesley Crusher signed it. Um, but yeah, and Picard signed it. So that's my bucket list for me, is to get autographs. Um, Now that one convention you talked about that you're going back to, and I think I have the photo for that one. No, I don't have that one. That one that you talked about, you're going back again, and that one time you did a panel. So did you just talk about like people come in, ask questions like the same thing that I'm doing right now, or how was it?
We it's a little bit more structured. So Dave and I, because we've done a bunch of them now, we'll theme our panels. Like we have a Titan one
Oh,
that we do on designing the Titan. We had one that was all of Picard. So we even talked about not even my sets, like the Borg cube and the District 6 and all that stuff. So we have like a overall Picard one. We have recreating the
wow,
Enterprise D, resurrecting the Enterprise D. That one, and it's told from our perspective as the
nice.
artists. So it's not like, yeah, I mean, some of it's the actors coming on the stage and it's Terry writing it or whatever. But like for us, it's like all the little nitty gritty things that we did on it. And I didn't think, and now I've like, to me, that's people don't think my job is interesting when I'm talking about picking carpet samples and doorknobs, but it's funny how interested everyone is on everything we did to make that Enterprise D come to life, like the graphics and the paint colors and all of that. So we're just talking about like our day to day, that job, and we've got photos that go with it. So there's like a slideshow for everything. I've got one on the Elios, from like Jack Crusher's Elios from like the first 2 episodes of
nice.
Picard. That's a new panel we haven't done yet. So yeah, FedCon is in Bonn, Germany, and the German fans absolutely love the process, like so much, like way more than anybody else. So they're like, just the craftsmanship and the like all the details they really like. So last year the panels were really popular, and so I was very fortunate to be invited back. So I have 3 panels this year at FedCon, and I'm doing them alone. So we'll see how that goes.
Hey, you got plenty of stuff to talk about. I mean, like you said, you created Titan. I mean, those ships in general, like we were talking about before we started recording, how Star Wars is what got you, and how back in my day we had to wait for magazines to see how the masks were created, the lightsabers were created. Here you had the DVDs to see all that stuff. And to me, that intrigued me after watching the movie more. And it made me, and this is the thing, that's why I love this podcast, is because we get to talk to the people behind the movies, because people don't realize how much work goes, into this to make, not just from the stunt doubles, not just from your department, the lighting. I mean, it's just, they don't realize like how much goes into it. And that to me is more interesting, growing up as my dad being a carpenter and seeing the stuff they have to do to build houses. It's a time consuming thing, because you have to know how to cut here, like you said, make sure carpet's here. And like you were stating before, they had to cut the foam by hand before, then now you have the computers that cut it for you. So I mean, it's changed so much in the industry.
Yeah, but even seeing like the art books, like a lot of times the art books will be more concept art heavy, or makeup, or really the flashy things that like make it for a good book, and they're they print well. But even watching other art directors and other designers like Todd Chernevsky talking about the age or dyer paintings, painters that do all the Star Wars aging to really give that stuff like it's been around for 30 to 100 years, and it's dusty, and it's got alien planets and all of this stuff. Just talking about how many passes the painters had to do to come through and really make that stuff look, because otherwise it looks crispy and brand new. It doesn't look, it looks like we built it for a film set, and it doesn't have that kind of aging. But hearing their process, it's that, I mean, that's what got me in the industry, was reading those behind the scenes books. And like the amount of art books that I have collected for everything, Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, like all of it, because it's the amazing, amazing craftsmanship.
So getting back to Star Wars, of course, there's a photo of you getting to meet Hayden and, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I know.
How
So cool.
Okay, as a geek, for me, I'm the same way. Certain people, getting to meet, people that you idolize growing up. Like Todd, when I met Todd, I met him, when I first time I ever met him, I was in San Diego. He was at a comic booth promoting this comic, and people are just walking by him. And I knew who he was because I saw him in movies, and I was like, what are you doing here? I go, you're an actor. And he's like, oh yeah, I also write books. And I was like, and then we started talking. But when you sit in front of a TV, like you were saying, you like to watch all these things at the end. I'm pretty sure with you seen one of the art designers or whatever, you probably would recognize them because seeing him on the videos. That's the thing, when you spend that time watching TV and watching these effects, after DVDs, the extra features, and you said, like you said, you studied it. So, from this aspect, how was it meeting people you grew up with?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I
Oh,
thought
no.
you were gonna finish. Yeah. No, it was awesome. I think because Star Wars was the first for me, like my first fandom. I mean, many more after that, and they're all. pretty equal. Even like being on the the next gen cast being there, like I was in the room like staring, like being awkward. But those guys, to meet them in like a fan setting, like I was already at LA Comic Con. I saw they were doing photos. I saw how expensive the photos are, and I was like, "Am I really doing this?" But I'm like, "It's Opie Annie. Like, yeah, I have to do it." And I remember I told Terry Metalis because he was there, and he was like, "I can't believe you're spending that money. Like, you're crazy." And I'm like, "I don't care. Like, I'm so Hayden, like I was so excited, and they were so nice, and just the fact that you get to meet them, they shake your hand. You don't really have a lot of time to talk because you're being yelled at to take the photo and leave, but they're there to like they treat you like a human, and they're hugging you, and like Hayden like stared at me in the eyes, and like I got my photo afterwards, and I literally was buzzing, and I was like running around the convention like holding my photo, like more excited about that than many other things. Like anything can, oh, and your new show's coming out, or, oh, I got this autograph. But meeting Obi and Annie was definitely totally worth the money. So I'm gonna just put that in the history
Well, the
books.
funny thing is they didn't even know. I mean, they saw you and they met you, but if they look now and know that you helped, make the Enterprise D ship, I bet you they're like, we took a picture with, you know what I mean?
Oh no, but I don't. It depends on if someone's a Trekkie or not. Like I got the pleasure of meeting Doug Chang, who does like all the design for all the Star
Yeah.
Wars, right? He's like Lucasfilm picked him up, and he's like the overarching designer. And like you said, I know who Doug Chang is. And I was at like a Emmys event, and everyone was lining up to meet Rosario and Hayden, and I was like, "There's no way I'm getting in that room that day," but Doug Chang was just chilling there talking to a couple of people. So I, jumped in the line to meet him, and he was like, I said, "Hey, I'm an art director from Star Trek, but I'm always looking to kind of break into Star Wars." And he was like, "Don't tell anyone, but I'm a huge Trekkie." And but he was like, I've just worked in Star Wars for the last 30 years. And, that's fine too, but original series was his big thing. So we had that
Wow.
in common. Maybe I'll work for him someday, fingers crossed. But that was, yeah. It's meeting those people,
Wow.
like you leave and you're like, I can't believe I just did that, and I'll call my friends up and let them know, and they have no idea who I'm talking about, Even I sent the Ewan and Hayden picture to my family, and my mom's like, "Who are they?" Like they don't know.
Oh man. No, I agree. So okay, I was at a Blue Beetle screening for Blue Beetle, right? And one of the creators who created Blue Beetle was there at the party, and he was just sitting in the back corner. And I'm a comic book geek, so I'm like, no, that can't be him, right? So I go up to him like, "Hey, are you Cully?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No way." I go, "Why isn't nobody here asking for your autograph?" He's like, "Oh, they don't know who I am." And I'm like,
Right.
wow. And luckily I took my Blue Beetle pop, and I'm like, can you sign something for me? He's like, "You actually bought something?" I'm like, "I just bought it just in case, hoping somebody would be here." And he helped create the costume for Blue Beetle in the comics. So it's like,
Well,
yeah, like everyone else is there for someone else, but me and you are excited for someone who's behind the scenes.
right. Yeah, and even with like Dave and I, like the loyal Star Trek people that are like on the internet and on Twitter, like we'll meet them and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I follow you guys on Twitter." Like we get that, but yeah, the average person, even when I went to the fan fest, like nobody knows who we are or what. Like that's, I'm like, I worked on this, and they're like, "Oh yeah," like nobody believed us. So that was really my experience there last
Oh,
week.
for real? They were like, "Oh yeah." Like you were telling them.
We had some people, a few, you can see if you're in a Starfleet uniform, and like I said, if they're on Twitter, it's different. But the average Star Trek fan was just came through, and that was
Wow.
that. But
Okay. So you also you wrapped on something. Of course, you can't talk much about it, but I mean, you got to work on a show that's gonna be dropping pretty soon, season 2.
yeah,
I
yeah, Ted.
Yes. Ha. Okay. Did you actually meet Rick McFarlane, or did you work from a distance?
So McFarlane is cool. I can't talk too much about Ted, but he is very loyal to the people that
Wow.
work with him. So the Ted crew are the Orville crew.
Wow.
And Seth has the people that he's worked with. Like I think he's worked with Stephen Lineweaver, who is the production designer. They worked together for about 15 years collaborating. So they've done everything together, like the Orville and A Million Ways to Die in the West, and all the Ted movies, the Mark Wahlberg movies, and then the Ted TV show. So Seth, he mainly works with the loyal people. So he usually only will interact with Steven, and Steven will tell us, hey, Seth wants this, or Seth really like this. So that's kind of like my experience. But I did meet him, and he was like, I was like, hey, I'm Liz, and I'm working on these sets. And he was like, yeah, I know who you are. You're from Star Trek, And so he knew he's a huge Trekkie. So we didn't really have much to talk about, but like that was kind of cool,
Yeah, to say he knows who you are, dude, that's just freaking awesome. I mean,
but like, yeah. Like that's kind of how it was, like.
Hey,
it's cool.
Yeah,
it's
I can
cool.
imagine. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, especially with Orville and everything like that, and that's an awesome show in itself. People thought it would never come back, which I was surprised too that it was coming back, and I'm looking forward to it coming back.
I think it's way away. I think they're talking about it, but it's going to be some time until you see
he's
that.
doing so much. I mean, because what I heard is that he'll be doing the voice of Ted at the same time as his directing. And supposedly he's offset in the corner. And then Ted's like a little I'm not saying a teddy bear, but like a little thing on a chair, but he's across in a little booth where he's doing the voice and directing at the same time. And I'm like, wow, that you to be able to multitask like that, that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah. And then he's in there with the edit too. And Ted has a long post because they have the bear is in basically every scene. So that's a lot of VFX for them to do. So I think it's like 8 or 9 months of post in Ted. So that's like, I'm not working now, but that's waiting for Ted to finish. And then maybe those guys will have something, but yeah, it's a long post process.
Wow. That is some crazy stuff. So since you've had time off, do you watch any shows or do you read comics, or what is your sci-fi getaway?
No, so I read. I watch a lot of shows. I try to stay up with everything. We have like the industry will get us screenings to things, so I really try to go to the screenings and watch, like be up with everything. Like all of the new Star Wars stuff. I even went back. I hadn't seen all the Clone Wars. Just like when they came out, same thing. It was on TV, but it wasn't on streaming. And now that everything's on Disney Plus, I'm like, oh, I'm chewing through all of that stuff. So I just did like a big binge of Clone Wars and Rebels, and now Andor is coming out, so Mando and Obi-Wan, like I'm up with all that stuff, and like Game of Thrones and The Last of Us, definitely the high concept sci-fis, those for sure I'm in. But I'm even like Severance, I was just obsessed with. I know a lot of people are, the popular shows that people are talking about. I'll try to stay up with all of that, but for me it's a big industry thing too, because you'll be talking to people and they'll be like, hey, what were the last 5 shows you watched and what did you think? And you try to find shows that people have in common, or movies. Like one of my good friends is Scott Mantz, who's a film critic. And so you can't get lunch with Scott Mantz without having seen like the last, like if something is in theaters, you better have seen it, because he'll be asking you about it, And we go to Q&As all the time, or, hey, what did you think about this? Like that's how you stay relevant in conversations. So I'm pretty up with that type of content.
Okay.
Not everything. People say, have you watched this? And I'll be like, no, but I'll put it on my list, so there's a lot of that, especially with the time off. It's a lot more time to catch up on your shows. I'm still been trying to keep busy, but you can see like on my socials, I'm doing a lot of fun stuff. I should be saving money. I have no income, but whatever.
You only live once. Enjoy it where you can. I mean, yeah, this weekend looks like you've been pretty busy this weekend. So, okay, since you mentioned that you've binge watched Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, since you watched those and you hadn't watched them before, I take it, what are your thoughts on the story? Did you like what?
I love it. I love it so much. There's some of the stuff in Clone Wars, like it gets, because there's so many episodes, like, occasionally you'll be like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. Or, there's little bottle episodes where, versus the stuff that like that carries the lore, like anything Ahsoka and Maul, obviously, you follow those storylines for sure. And like Rebels, I got into Rebels and I was like, I can't believe this is like, how did I not know about this? like it's dark and it's like the characters are really like well defined. And then Ahsoka came out, and I was like, oh, now I know who all these people are because I'm up with all the Rebels characters are back. But everything Filoni's doing, like, keep doing what you're doing because it's great. Like I think there's this thing somebody showed how to watch the 20th anniversary Revenge of the Sith for maximum heartbreak, and they show you what episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels or well, you watch those, and then you watch up to 45 minutes, and then you wait for this, watch more of Revenge of the Sith, and then you watch another Clone Wars episode, the Order 66 and all of that. But you can watch it in sequence to catch, Ahsoka, her side of it. Like even like, Padme's funeral, and then like the shot of Ahsoka at the funeral. And so there's a way to watch it, that whole tragedy, for maximum heartbreak. And I watched that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, the story, it makes the story much bigger than just those 3 prequels, which I'm still a loyalist. Like I'm not like, you kind of get past some of the, awkward dialogue, but like even just yesterday I went to the Revenge of the Sith like remaster, like, and just watching that and watching all of the like matte paintings and the new VFX shots, and like it was gorgeous. But I literally just did that, and I was like, this holds up. John Williams' music hides, some of the acting that like, feels a little awkward, but like, yeah, I'm a total loyalist. Like, give me those all day. Put all the prequel, like Phantom Menace. If they release that in theaters, I would go to it. So.
Okay, so I have to ask with that and the clones, when we watched those 3 episodes before Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, I didn't really care much about the clones, but then when I watched Star Wars Rebels and watched like the story on the troopers and the chips and everything like that, and it really made me care more for the clone troopers
When you read
because of
the
everything.
prequel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even watching like the Order 66, like you watch Yoda and Obi-Wan like slay all these clones, and you see Ahsoka when she's fighting them, she's trying to not kill them. Like she's injuring everybody, but she's not like Rex and all those guys. Like she doesn't kill them. They're her friends. She spent like that was her whole, and it's a bummer that because Anakin was there for all of that too. But and then watching Ahsoka and seeing the further, a lot of it's in Clone Wars, but seeing her and Anakin's relationship, so much fleshed out so much more, and then her and Ezra and all of this, like all this stuff in Rebels, and then when Vader shows up and you're like, oh, you've seen all of this up to that point, so getting all that backstory, I mean, that's storytelling, and I eat all of that up. Like I'm in it, man. Like obscure episodes.
And that's why I'm asking these questions, because I mean it holds up so much. I mean, even at that one episode, I don't remember what episode it was, but when you see Ahsoka and you see the troopers that have the paint of her face on the helmets, and she walks away and you just see the snow falling, that I was just like, oh my God, like it hit hard. And I was like, wow, like, and then the time too, like you see in Anakin, like, when he's training her to fight and she's constantly repeating that fight scene over and over, not knowing later on she's going to need to do that to survive, Order 66. And I was
Right.
like, wow, my mind was blown.
Yeah, but even that too, even with Obi-Wan, like when Obi-Wan gets to revisit, like he has another confrontation with like Vader, Anakin, and the helmet's broken. And you see that like orange, yellow eye again, and you're like, oh shit! Like this is so. Even having watched all of that, and then going back and watching Revenge, now in my head, I'm like, oh, I know all this. Like even just watching Obi-Wan, like doesn't want to kill him, but there's like. Then like, oh, he killed, the younglings and all that. Like, yeah, when you watch the movie, it kind of glazes over it because we have that backstory with all of the Filoni animated shows. Like what did they just announce? A new mall for animated mall? Like I am all over that because they made the character so interesting and conflicted and like sort of likable. Like you kind of like him. Even when he's like one of Ahsoka's biggest nemesis, like they have to work together to survive Order 66, like or is that what happened, or whatever, they're like fighting at that time, in that time, and like everyone's escaping, but Yeah, maybe I don't know if I got that. Is my lore? Am I confusing my lore? But you know what I'm saying. Like her relationship with
Yes.
Maul, super interesting. Maul's relationship with Obi-Wan, super interesting. You know, like what is it? What was the scene where it's like Obi-Wan versus Maul, and in one of the animateds, and he goes like full Qui-Gon, and then he goes what or he goes Obi-Wan, and then he does all the different poses, but then he ends with Qui-Gon, and it's almost like a mind trick to show Maul like, oh, you'll beat me because here's my Qui-Gon pose, and then he's like, oh, I learned all of this stuff. So Obi-Wan ends up becoming a more formidable foe because he's got all of that, but it's all psychological, and all they are like poses, and you're like mind blown.
Yes. No. Yes. That I love this episode. I watched them over and over, and the Bad Batch too. That series. If you haven't watched Bad Batch yet,
No, it's on my list. I'm still catching up on stuff. Yeah, there's Bad Batch. There's a few like because they dropped the content. There's so much content now too. So like I don't know if I missed, but I knew Bad Batch was coming out, and then I missed the release. But then I was just on Disney Plus, and I was like, oh, I have so much stuff to watch. But then you get excited because you're like new
no.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Bad
Definitely.
Batch, yeah, now you're like, yeah, your empathy for the clones, is surpasses. Oh, they were kind of villainy with Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. Like
Yep.
the clones were a little like, or even seeing the backstory with like how the clones got, that whole subplot where like Dooku's involved and like getting the Camino people to program the clones. Like it's not just like all of that gets explained, and so now like it makes us the millennial diehards even more diehard because we're like, oh yeah, I already know about that, and I'm here
Yeah.
to
No.
experience.
It is so cool talking with you about Star Wars. It's so cool. We were here talking about Star Trek, and now go transition to Star Wars.
Oh, I don't
Um.
care. I like everything. So
So okay. So I want to ask about this. To ask this for artists, comic book artists that I interview, because everything the industry's changed. So
mhm.
for comics, there's artists that do 50-50. They'll do 50 hand draw and then 50 digital. And same thing with the industry. It seems like a lot of people are continuing to still use the CGI, but I feel like some people are going back to some practicals and still CGI. Do you prefer practicals or you like CGI more?
um, that's a good question. So I think we're never going to be able to move away from CGI because the audiences are so used to seeing, like, it's not like, oh, we can't, like okay, so for instance, in the early Star Wars days, Lucas had to like literally invent ILM to then come up with how they're going to do these VFX shots. Like they pioneered the ship, all that ship stuff. I mean, all these other shows wouldn't have been able to do that without Lucas establishing it, right? So like Enemy Mine, the ILM guys did all the ships flying around in Enemy Mine. They had just done Star Wars, so like that's fine. And then they moved into VFX for the prequels. They shot everything on green screen. So you go from like all the practical stuff to like actors standing on green with like very barely anything. And I really do think it's a happy medium between both, because you lose a lot of it when you're in the computer, and even when a computer's moving, the computer camera is moving through a computer space. In your mind, you're like, oh, okay, this is fake. Even though we've got Unreal Engine and all of the software that we've got now that can do this stuff like in real time, like the real time renderers and the volume and all that. All of that is great, but there's something beautiful about the tangible and the real. Like anything Denis Villeneuve does, they're building minis for. Like Blade Runner 2049, the city, like the opening shot when the little ship flies through the city and everything's raining. They built that city in mini. They still animated. They still use CG to enhance the scene. They still use CG to fly the ship in. But because the camera was moving through a physical city, in your mind you're like, oh, this feels so much better to me. I have a rant too about the deep fake stuff because the technology is using that to de-age people and all of that. And
Yeah.
you saw Disney make some mistakes with like people. Everyone's got a critique, but like the young Leia and the young Grand Moff Tarkin and then the young Luke, they're doing it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is great because that's adding to the story. But you get the like uncanny valley, and you get the little prickly, like, oh, I know this is a computer and it's not a person. But if you go back to Blade Runner 2049, the reason the Rachel, the de-aged Sean Young, looks so good is because they hand animated her. So yeah, they're still using dots and they're still using technology and they're still using tracking, but they're not relying on the computer to do the work. And so there's still an actor, but there's still a human making sure that this performance is authentic and it looks so much better. The stuff that Jules Urbach and Otoy are doing for that same type of digital prosthetics. So like Star Trek Unification, if you saw that. So Unification with the de-aged Kirk. Did
I
you
was
see
just gonna
that?
bring that up. I was just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say with
yeah,
Sam Witwer portraying.
yeah,
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 okay.
yeah.
That.
So,
Oh man,
so
my mind was blown.
right. So that's all the same concept, but with that technology. And now Jules Urbach, right? He's like Lex Luthor. He's like, oh, I need this technology, so I'm going to write the code to do it. So over the last 2 years, Otoy's been developing better technology than deepfake. Even watching like fans on YouTube show their deepfakes, how much more authentic they look, like the Luke Skywalker. Somebody redid the Luke Skywalker not working at ILM, and like it looked so much better. Now I believe that looks better because that person is meticulously making sure that it's authentic, right? But there's still a computer aspect to it. So the concept that Jules is dealing with now is they're not letting the computer pilot the performance. Because when a computer pilots a performance, any robot you see gives you that kind of the uncanny valley, which is the human in you prickling because something's not right.
Yeah.
So that feeling. So you're trying to avoid that feeling. So what they did was they worked with Witwer to pilot the CG. So basically, he as an actor, he did all the R&D with them, but the CG is there, and they're able to attach it to his face without dots, because we don't need dots anymore. I don't even need dots. In Unreal Engine, if I need to animate something, I'll just upload an iPhone video of my face, and then the Unreal will track it and map it to my metahuman or my character. Like that technology is already here, like for like lay people. But the fact that they call them digital prosthetics because they attach it to the actor's face. So once they're there, like literally Sam, I see behind the scenes of him sitting in the makeup chair, and then the camera's pointed at his face, and he's already looking like Kirk. And so, I actually had a chance to talk to him, and I asked him, I was like, so are you literally learning how to use the face by looking at the monitor? And he was like, yeah, like you treat it like a mirror. So the actor, the reason that was so good is because Sam is good at playing Kirk. Right? He can do the voice, he can do the facial expressions. He already knows how to do all that. Like that's meticulous dedication. But because the technology, you can still kind of tell, oh, this is fake, but it doesn't. It feels more. The performances feel more real, but they feel real because a person is playing it, not the computer. And so the computer there, all that is de-aging, like Benjamin Button, right? They de-aged Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt was still playing Brad Pitt. So you kind of let it go because it's still the person doing the thing, and all you're doing is like smoothing the person out. But the digital prosthetics, to me, far surpass what the deepfake stuff is. And so to answer your question on should things be practical or should things be digital, you need to fuse the two of them or it's not going to look good. And now like audiences are spoiled because we're so used to looking at amazing things all the time. Like even the Revenge movie, like there are map painting, or there are like establishings of these planets and the cities, and like I don't remember seeing them, but they look better, and they look better because the technology now is better, so they can up-res stuff and enhance it and flesh out the scenes, and moves that looked kind of computery, like that's all been remastered. Same thing with Star Trek. They remastered the Akutas, worked with, what was it, CBS, to remaster all the VFX that looked a little rough in the 80s and early 90s, and now the stuff looks a lot better. But getting those remasters, like we're spoiled, because now we're used to seeing stuff look, super, super crisp and like high detailed, so it's only going to get more.
So, okay, since you got to talk to Sam, how long was he in the chair for?
They put some prosthetics on him, like a wig and a few prosthetics, but it wasn't long because they just, once he walks in, and so did the guy that played Spock. His name is Larry Selleck. He said the thing too. He walked on set and he said he saw Leonard Nimoy on the monitor walking, and then he was like, and he was like, oh, it's me. So they're already the minds, the brilliant Otoy minds. They're already in there, like they've already done it. And so whatever they needed to do to sync the actors up and match their bone structures. Like Sam doesn't look anything like Shatner, really.
No.
He's taller and his face structure and all that. So they changed him a little bit to try to get him into that Shatner shape. But what he said was he actually had to train his face to do Shatner stuff because his muscles don't do what Shatner's muscles. They're different. So that's I think that's what's so unique about having a different actor play a different actor. It would be a little easier to play a younger version of yourself, and I think they did that with like whatever the tests that they do. Like he could show, hey, here's me young, and that's easier because it's the same bone structure. Here's me old, here's me regular, and the only thing is I think when some things that happen, so I still think there's stuff to work out, but the fact that a different actor can now play somebody else, and they said it's a bit of real prosthetics and the rest of it's digital, but the digital is almost instant. Like they have it out there, they've synced it up. But I wasn't there, so like I'm just telling you, like I've seen all the behind the scenes, and I've had some time to chat with those guys. But
well, no, same here. When I saw it, I was just like, wow, like the way he did it looked like you're seeing Captain Kirk, you're seeing Shatner, and like you said, like if you watch like Professor X when they made him look young, you can see the differences. But here you really, and then you see that, because I mean there's some like photos that like Sam posted on his personal page where you see him here, and then here the photo like you were saying where you see and it looks just like Kirk. And I was just like, wow, like, and then the story that they just did so what was the reasoning behind doing that short? Did they ever say?
I think Jules, it was Jules's idea. He had started it by doing, there's multiple shorts, right? So it's a whole series, the 765874, which it started with the story of J.M. Colt, the girl from The Cage, who's played by Jules's wife. So originally it was just him and her like writing stories and like testing this out. And then now they're just like creatives. They're just passionate about Star Trek. Like I have full faith that those guys are that Jules is, if anything is in Jules's hands, it will be authentic to Star Trek. Like he won't let something go out that like doesn't feel like it belongs in that universe. But they got really creative with like the flashbacks and the mind meld, and there's some stuff where it's just like Spock overlooking, thinking about his past, overlooking the city. Have the whole, the Enterprise D is being lifted back off of Veridian 3 because what is it, the Prime Directive, they can't leave it there. So just the fact that they added that in there, and it's like, and then now after generations, now it's Spock, reflecting on Kirk's death. So like whatever they're just writing these stories to showcase the technology that they have, because they're rendering that. I mean, Otoy is a render company. So what they're saying is, hey, we went out into Death Valley or wherever they filmed that, with the structure and the desert and like where the generations ending scenes. They went out and scanned the whole valley with their crazy cameras and all that stuff. And once they had that 3D, they're able to bring it into their software and then render it out to look super real. And now they have full control over that. So now that can be put into any scene that they want to put in, and so my understanding is that it was to show off this technology. And then they kept writing more and more stories. So the unification was, giving fans the goodbye, the Kirk and Spock goodbye. It's Spock's funeral, it's all these people in Spock's life. The significance of all, like Saavik is crying. You're like, oh, would Saavik cry? But like, that's how emotional that scene is, and they integrated, the Discovery characters, and there's all kinds of stuff. But like, there's the Easter eggs, and, people will complain. They'll say, oh, everyone gives an Easter egg. But to me, that is an authentic Star Trek story. That's everything Star Trek. It's there. Roddenberry said the same thing. He was like, I have full trust that those guys are going to do the IP service, and like, you look how many views they have. They're not listed on YouTube, and it's like 25 million views, and they're getting the exact same response from fans. Like, you made me cry. I was so moved. This is so significant. This was the ending that I needed. Blah, blah, blah. They're getting the same response that we got when the Enterprise D was revealed. It's very, very similar because it's something that people care about so much. If you're an original series fan, like especially with Spock and Kirk, it's like, that's the friendship, that's ultimate friendship, but that it gave fans what they wanted. So that's like, if even every time I watch it, I cry. And I'm
I,
like,
it gave me
it's
tears.
not,
I ain't gonna lie.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
with that technology, so are you learning still new tricks every time you're working on something?
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Like Unreal Engine, I went to because I've been out of work. I went to school for it, so I'm like certified in Unreal. I can take any set we have and put it in the real time renderer and texture it out and put out a video in it. Like I'm not like professional like video game renderer, but like I made it through the school. And so even on TED, I was doing stuff on TED. The guys were like, "We can't believe that one person can do this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm not a landscape painter. I'm not an animator. I'm not a like I'm an art director. I literally drink coffee and point at things. And I have a 3D background anyways, but the fact that the Unreal stuff, building a world and then making it so that you can put it on a volume, like if I can do that, I mean, you have to sit down and learn the software. You have to be dedicated to it, but like that technology is for me, a year and a half old, like maybe two. Yeah, I've only been using it like pretty recently in my career, but it's also staying with that technology. Like if there's other stuff that we could be using, I'm like, yeah, yeah. What else? AI, all of that stuff. Like these are all tools for us to use.
Wow. So you went to school literally just back to pick this up so you can prepare yourself to. Wow, that is
Hmm.
some crazy stuff.
And we do it anyways. Like industry people, like I know art directors and set designers in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that they hand drafted in the 80s and now they're all digital. So they have to stay with the technology. Everyone has to stay with the technology because it's ever evolving. Even film going from black and white to color and then going from silent to talkies. I mean, that technology, the minute we get or shooting on the volume versus green screen, these are all things that like make movie making either easier or better. They're all tools. Sometimes you use them, like we didn't use the volume on Picard, we used traditional blue and green screen. And then you look at Strange New Worlds and all them, they're using the volume like Mando and Obi-Wan. So like it's technology that we're all still learning, but whether we can implement it and can you hire enough crew to do it because it is so new. But yeah, that's a lot of the film industry is that, like, you have to stay fluid.
Wow.
Film to digital, all changes in equipment comes out every year. It's different. You've got to learn it. So that's kind of our nature as filmmakers.
Wow. See, that's why, we bring people like you on to talk about this because we people just sit and watch TV. We don't, unless you care like us, that we care about this stuff, we wouldn't know the stories behind it. And as a thing of that it's just so crazy that you went from doing orange and from there to here. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's and it's a thing. I guess you have to constantly be looking at the next thing. Just keep on moving forward and don't wait and don't settle. Just keep on going. So if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had somebody right now who sees things like you that admires special effects and behind the scene type of stuff, and art directing wise, um, what would you tell a younger person now if they wanted to do this? What would they have to do, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first off, I tell people to watch movies, read scripts, and watch movies because that's how it's all about storytelling. Like you can be good at rendering something, or you can be a great artist, but if you're not telling the story, like you're not like that's not film. Artistry is just a part of it. But if you want to do what we're doing in the art department, to have an edge and to really be taken seriously, learning some type of 3D software. There's so many out there. Um, like Rhino is a big one that the industry uses a lot now. Blender's a free software. If you're an expert at Blender, you can hold your own because we're like a lot. We deal with 3D files all day. So whatever you have that could be like deal with the 3D. Take a set design course, take architecture courses, anything to learn how to build stuff. Like I definitely had to learn that when I moved to LA. I had done film, but I had no building background. So then you start building like $100 million projects, and it's like you learn that stuff really fast, and that's fine to learn it on the fly. But any of that will give you an edge. A theater background will give you an edge. Like the theater's a little different, but like even me, like I've been able to do reality and stop motion and TV and film and low budget and big budget sci-fi western. They're all different, but they all have kind of similar ways of like it's movie making is really what it is. But having, for me at least, I was a SketchUp art director. The fact that I was really good at SketchUp, designers that didn't know how to use any 3D need me, so do something that gives you an edge. And if you can even jump in with a big art department, especially the sci-fis and the heavy VFX ones, like VFX people, they all know their program, Maya or, whatever, like any render program that you can do. Unreal. If you've got an Unreal background, like that's super helpful, so that's another free software. So, a lot of these things and the classes are all online, but it's take the time and learn the class and come in it. Like, yeah, like learning how to set design, someone will show you how to do that. But like, not having to learn a program from scratch will help you. But that's my advice.
Man, and that's the thing, taking the time to learn all that. It's I guess one of the um I talked to a writer about what he learned how to write. I talked to Brian, and he did Justice League versus Godzilla versus King Kong, and he taught himself how to write, like literally getting books from like Barnes and Nobles and learning how to write scripts, and didn't go to school for it either. But he said you have to, yeah, you can have an imagination and everything, but you have to be dedicated and really
Yeah,
push yourself to do it.
if you want to write, you have to read. And that's actually a Stephen King quote. So Stephen King was, he's like the master writer. Like you need to be, if you want, someone's going to give you advice about writing, Stephen King might be the guy. But he just told people, you need to be reading. How will you know how a book is structured? How do you know how story is structured? Because a lot of this stuff repeats. But even with scripts, if you've never written a script before and you write a script, you're going to make all kinds of mistakes. Because like we read, like if someone like me, I don't really write, but I read scripts all the time. And I'll know right away if a script doesn't follow the correct formatting or it doesn't have the proper 5-act story or, whatever. Like you can break those rules, but you have to know them to do it. So Stephen King's like, if you don't read, like, don't even bother writing because you don't, it's like experience. All that does is give you experience. That's kind of why I watch a lot of content too, is because, in your mind, you're like, oh, okay, we could do it like that. It's all other artists researching other art really is what you're doing to like fill your brain with creative ideas.
Yeah, no, I agree. You definitely want to pick up stuff and see things differently. It's like everybody who reads books. I mean, they're reading the same book, but everybody interprets it differently than others. They may have overlooked this. This person may have seen this. It just everybody's mind incorporates things differently as well. Because you may see something that someone else doesn't see when you're creating that set, or like you said, you point out that color that doesn't go, because you can catch it. So yeah, I definitely agree that it teaches you being on the set and learning and watching more. That's just still cool. I appreciate you everything that you are doing, and I hope I'm just putting it out there. You got to work with McFarlane, and I hope because we're gonna get Orville. I would love to see you work on that because that show it just reminded me of Star Trek as well. When I watched it, it was more comedic, and the cast that they have, like you said, he keeps the people close to him that he works with, and he uses them on other stuff and other projects. And Scott Grimes kills it. I loved him since Critters, um, and ER. He was great in ER, and then seeing him in Orville, and then seeing him in Ted, uh, and doing the Boston accent. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I love that show. But like I said, I'm putting it out there. I hope we can get you into there as well. Is there an IP before we go? Is there an IP that you would like to work at that you haven't worked?
Yeah, there's tons of them. Like House of the Dragon. I'm like I had a hard time watching the Game of Thrones. They made that like hour featurette on the making of.
Oh yeah.
Those types of things, like that's what I was telling you, but I used to like buy DVDs just for the featurettes. And I actually had a hard time watching it because my heart, it was so painful to not have been included, to not have been there. Like, you get the stories the crew stories and all that. And I get those stories on my projects, but I was like, I always wanted to work on that. I never made it to Game of Thrones, but like House of the Dragon, really similar with crazy craftsmanship. And, castles in Europe. I'd love to work on a European show, traveling and all of that. Like The Witcher, that's another IP I would have killed. I mean, they're already season 4, so like, yeah, I've basically missed the ball on that. But like those types of reading the scripts and like being a huge Witcher fan and like reading all the books, playing the games, all of that, like being like, hey, we need you to design, this castle or this town or like, Oxenford or Novigrad or whatever. Like I'm like giving me that challenge, like that would have been a dream. So there's a lot of IPs that I'd kill to work on, but like Star Trek was one that I was lucky I had friends working on it, and I was on a job and I was starting a new job, and then they offered me the Star Trek job, and I quit 2 jobs to do it because that was the dream. That was an IP I wanted to be a part of. You know?
Hey, you did the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. That was a crazy time in my life.
I mean, Terry killed it. I mean, the writing, and I know him and Kristen are in, I think, the UK. They're working on another film. I can't
Hmm.
wait to see what that is. I'm looking forward
Hmm.
to it. I think I have an idea what it is, but looking forward to seeing that. And then also too, they're supposed to be doing the magic animation too. So
Yeah,
that's
I think
going to
they
be
wrote that.
interesting.
I think that was announced. I think they
Yeah.
announced that was a project that I think they already that's in the works, right? Netflix announced that.
Yeah, they announced that,
Um,
but I'm interested to see that because I work at a comic book store and we have
yeah,
Friday Night
Magic.
Magic.
Yeah, big world. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with it. I really want to see it, and I'm gonna be a lot of fans talk about it when they come in, and because we talk on Friday Night Magic or draft and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
but again, thanks for coming on, Liz. This was
You're
fun
welcome. This was
talking
great.
a little
Thanks for
bit of
great.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for
Well,
you had my whole life on the all the pictures you had very researched, so it's very flattering. Thank you.
well, I mean, I'm a big geek, so that's why I said, I follow, the people I follow. Because how can I say that? How do they say it? Living vicariously through you, because you do what us geeks that don't have the ability to do that stuff. But I mean, to me, as a kid growing up back in the time I grew up, I looked forward to seeing like all the models for Star Wars and all that. So getting to talk to somebody who works behind the industry, it just seeing, like you said, the things that you get to go do, the photos that you have, it's just like, wow, that's cool. And if
Really
you think
excited.
about it, if you were in my shoes back when you were a kid, how would you be taking it in right now? Because back then, like you said, you had to get the DVDs, but if
Mhm.
you were a kid and you had access to where you have access now, how do you think you would have taken it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think this stuff would have been faster. You're talking to these people and they're giving you advice. All of that, like the access.
Yeah.
Even like every actor, every craft person that does a podcast, it's like free knowledge. You know, and you're hearing about their experience and things that they learned. So the more you hear other people talk about their stuff, like yeah, I'm talking, but if I could Zoom with somebody and ask them questions, like game changer.
Yep, exactly. So that's why I want it. I want people, I want the younger girls and the younger guys who want to get in this industry to watch this podcast and see, what advice you gave, and hopefully we'll get the next art designers in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the next generation, right?
Yes, the next generation of art design that are
Hmm.
produced, because it's basically you started off as art design and then production and then, yeah,
Well,
okay.
I'm an art director, so I'm going to be
So yeah,
that for a while, and then
okay.
production designer is who I work for. But I'll do production design on a lower budget project. Like I haven't quite graduated yet, but
Okay.
I've designed like short films and small things. So you like what you have down below is exactly right. Like that's my technically on both of those titles, but on this projects I've worked on, art director is that's the main thing I do.
Okay. Nice. Well, guys, this is another episode of Countdown. Follow, go follow Liz. She does fun stuff. She gets to go to screenings. You get to see her on red carpets. So she's a cool person to follow. And then we'll put the links down below. And thanks again, Liz, for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.